The Sopranos is a fictional criminal drama series that portrays the life of a New Jersey-based organized crime family headed by infamous Tony Soprano. While the show is a work of fiction, it is grounded in real-life events and characters, and now we will answer the question once and for all. How realistic is The Sopranos? The show's creator, David Chase, has stated that he drew inspiration from real-life mafia figures and events, and he even consulted with former FBI agents and organized crime experts to ensure the show's accuracy. A significant portion of the events depicted in The Sopranos not only mirror modern-day mafia practices, but also reflect the way many organized crime syndicates conduct their affairs. In these criminal organizations, bosses may operate openly, hitmen may blend in with regular society, rival factions may even form alliances, and family members may betray one another. The intricacies of these contemporary criminal enterprises differ significantly from the old country ways. In the past, criminal organizations adhered to a strict set of rules that prohibited the injuring or killing of women and children, drug involvement, and snitching. Unfortunately, those days are long gone, and the landscape of organized crime has drastically changed. Nowadays, different groups collaborate with one another, and unlikely alliances have formed, such as between Russian gangs and Mexican cartels, and even between the Aryan Brotherhood and Cosa Nostra. Additionally, there have been instances where federal agents have worked alongside mafia bosses, such as the notorious case of Whitey Bulger. James Whitey Bulger was a notorious Boston-based organized crime boss who rose to power in the 70s as the leader of the Winter Hill Gang. For many years, Bulger was able to elude the authorities and maintain his criminal empire through the use of violence, intimidation, and corruption. In 1994, Bulger was tipped off by a corrupt FBI agent about a pending indictment, and he went on the run, becoming one of the most wanted fugitives in America. He remained on the lam for 16 years. In 2011, Bulger was finally apprehended in Santa Monica, California, where he was living under an assumed name with his longtime girlfriend. He was subsequently convicted of 11 murders, racketeering, extortion, and other crimes and sentenced to life in prison. The case was notable for the extent to which Bulger was able to bribe and corrupt law enforcement officials, including FBI agents, to protect his criminal enterprise. Mob ties. Ron Zellman is a character in The Sopranos who serves as the New Jersey state senator. He is portrayed as a corrupt politician who has ties to the mafia and frequently engages in illegal activities. Zellman has a close relationship with Tony, and he often uses his political power to help them with their criminal activities. For example, he assists Tony to secure the construction of a controversial project, and helps Tony after Soprano's son is caught bringing a knife into a mental health ward intending to take revenge on Junior Soprano for shooting his father. Here are a few notable cases of politicians who have been involved with the mafia over the years. Bill Bonanno was the son of mafia boss Joseph Bonanno and wrote a book about his experiences in organized crime. In the book, he alleged that his father had close ties to politicians and law enforcement officials in New York. The mafia helped President Kennedy win the election by rigging the vote in key states, such as Illinois and West Virginia. The mafia used their influence over local politicians and election officials to manipulate the vote in Kennedy's favor. Also, Kennedy's father, a notorious bootlegger Joseph Kennedy, had ties to the mafia and used these connections to help his son win the election. And the sponsor of this Vano VHS episode is Audible. Audiobooks are a great way to get a taste of a book without sitting down to read. You can listen to audiobooks in the car, at the gym, and you can read a book at any speed you want to finish reading faster. Audible offers an incredible selection of audiobooks of all genres. The best part is that the app has all those books we love so much. The Godfather, The Family Corleone, The Godfather's Revenge, Wise Guy, Hit 2 by Michael Mann, and many more. Remember when I told you about the special edition of The Godfather with the Coppola introduction? You can listen to it today. All you have to do is visit audibletrial.com/vanovhs and ask for a trial. New users can try Audible for free for 30 days. Goodfellas, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. I love books, but I don't always have time to read a paper version. But with Audible I can always enjoy The Godfather on the road or while driving. I really hope you will enjoy it too. Visit audibletrial.com/vanovhs and use a trial. All links are in the description. As an Audible associate, I earn from qualifying purchases, at no cost to you. The fate of mob bosses in real life can vary widely, with some ending up dead or behind bars while others manage to evade justice or retire peacefully. Similarly, the fate of mob bosses in The Sopranos is not a foregone conclusion and varies throughout the show. Some mob bosses in the show are killed or imprisoned, while others manage to avoid justice and continue operating their criminal enterprises. For example, Tony Soprano is killed in the final episode of the show, while his rival Phil Leotardo is killed in the episode before. Other mob bosses, such as Karma and Lupatesi, die of natural causes or retire from the criminal underworld. Informants play a significant role in the plot of The Sopranos. As a part of his profession, Tony Soprano is constantly under investigation by law enforcement, and he is always on the lookout for potential informants within his organization. One of the most prominent examples of an informant in the show is Adriana La Serva, the girlfriend of Tony's protege Christopher. Adriana becomes an informant for the FBI and provides them with information about Tony and his associates. However, her cover is eventually blown, and she is killed by Tony's crew. Another example is Big Pussy Bompansiro, a member of Tony's crew who is suspected of cooperating with law enforcement. Tony ultimately discovers that he is an informant and has him killed. Establishing a cell of informants is a common tactic used by FBI agents to gather intelligence and evidence in criminal investigations. By cultivating a network of informants, agents can gain access to information that they may not be able to obtain through other means, such as surveillance or wiretapping. The involvement of the mafia in the construction business depicted in The Sopranos is based on real-life criminal activities that have been documented in various parts of the United States. One common tactic used by the mafia in the construction industry is to demand a cut of the profits in exchange for protection from unions, regulators, and other competitors. They may also use intimidation or violence to force construction companies to comply with their demands. Whoever thinks this is all in the past, I have some bad news for you. FBI agent Joaquin Garcia, who can rightly be called the successor of the famous Joe Pistone, who at the turn of the century managed to infiltrate the mafia, told in his book about the way things are now. According to Garcia, he was given a construction job at the snap of a finger where, of course, he had no need to work. In addition, his new job provided him with a solid health insurance policy that very few in the FBI ranks could afford. The waste management industry has long been a lucrative source of income for the New Jersey mob. Historically, they have taken a cut of not only the hauling association dues and premium routes but also dictated where the garbage was dumped, thereby earning a percentage of the associated fees. Additionally, the barrel lifters and drivers who work in this industry are often members of the union, which means that the mob can collect a portion of the union dues. This has allowed the organized crime syndicates to establish a strong presence in the waste management sector and generate significant profits from it. Following World War II, the suburbs of New Jersey experienced an unprecedented surge in growth. Unfortunately, most municipalities did not offer residential garbage collection, which created an opportunity for Italian Americans to dominate the sanitation industry. The real way of the wise guy. Compared to the Godfather saga, The Sopranos offers a more realistic portrayal of the criminal underworld. Tony Soprano is depicted as a mediator, constantly navigating conflicts among his family members and other criminal organizations. Not everyone in his family likes him, and he must find ways to work with these individuals, which is a reality that is not explored as much in the Godfather movies. Unlike the characters in The Godfather, Tony and his men are not romanticized figures from opera or Greek tragedy. They are simply ruthless criminals who will harm anyone as long as they get paid. They are savage bullies who constantly exert their power over their subordinates. Tony uses humiliation and physical violence to remind his underlings who is in charge. Lower-level criminals are under constant pressure to earn and pay tribute, which is another aspect of the criminal underworld that is not depicted in The Godfather. A bankruptcy fraud scheme involving David Scatino and The Sopranos has some basis in reality. Bankruptcy fraud occurs when an individual or business knowingly provides false or misleading information during the bankruptcy process in order to gain an advantage or avoid paying debts. In the show, David Scatino, an old friend of Tony's, gets in over his head with gambling debts to Tony and his associates. He eventually goes bankrupt, but Tony and his associates manipulate him into committing bankruptcy fraud by hiding assets and lying on his bankruptcy paperwork. While the specific scheme depicted in the show may be fictional, bankruptcy fraud is a real crime that can result in significant fines and even imprisonment. Upon closer examination, I discovered that a few aspects of The Sopranos did not live up to reality and had been altered for the sake of making a good show. One area where the show took significant liberties was in its portrayal of the FBI agents' behavior. In real life, these agents are not nearly as sloppy or ineffective as depicted in the program. For instance, they would undoubtedly have employed GPS trackers on every vehicle owned by anyone under investigation. Anyone who tried to play games with the authorities, as Tony and his team did, would soon find themselves behind the bars. Another area where the show took some liberties was in its depiction of drug trafficking within organized crime syndicates. In reality, drug-related activities play a much more significant role in the operations of modern-day criminal organizations than what was depicted in the series. Drug trafficking has become a major source of revenue for many criminal groups, and they have become increasingly involved in the production, distribution, and sale of illicit drugs. In The Sopranos, the bodies of victims are dismembered and buried, which makes for dramatic television. However, in New Jersey, the most efficient way to dispose of a body is by rolling it in a rug, tying it up, and placing it in a dumpster scheduled for pickup. Most commercial garbage collection occurs in the early hours of the morning, and landfills receive thousands of tons of garbage daily. By the time a person is reported missing, their body is typically buried at the bottom of a massive pile of trash. However, on TV shows, disposing of bodies is often more dramatic if the assassin is responsible for locating and digging a shallow grave. In The Sopranos, many of the beatdowns and murders are carried out in public, making them particularly shocking. One of the most memorable instances is in the first season when Tony smashes his car into a man. Another example is what he does to Phil in season 6. Seal's murder in front of the Bean Strip Club, located on a busy highway in season 6, is another example. The FBI was likely already monitoring the business owned by Seal and Tony, and they knew that Phil was planning to attack the family. The brazen nature of these violent acts adds to the tension and drama of the show. The number of killings in The Sopranos is quite high, and even the show's writers acknowledged that they had to increase the body count for entertainment purposes. In reality, the mafia cannot afford to be constantly killing its own members and rivals in contemporary times for various reasons. While violence is certainly a part of organized crime, the frequency of the killings depicted in the show is not reflective of the current state of the mafia. The death of Adriana. It seems highly unlikely that the FBI would send a civilian to inform a mobster boyfriend, who they know has been violently abusive towards her in the past, that she is an informant without any protection or surveillance. Such an action would place the informant in extreme danger and go against standard FBI protocol for protecting informants. Typically, the FBI would take extensive measures to ensure the safety of their informants, including providing them with protection and surveillance to minimize the risk of harm. Therefore, it is highly unlikely that the FBI would take such a reckless and dangerous approach in handling an informant. Tony Soprano's good fortune with informants is a recurring theme throughout The Sopranos. Despite being involved in organized crime and constantly under investigation, Tony seems to have an uncanny ability to avoid being caught by the authorities. He manages to identify and eliminate informants within his organization before they can do any significant damage. And he even has a close relationship with an FBI agent, who he uses as a source of information. Following the passing of James Gandolfini, HBO produced a TV special that focused on the actor and his iconic role in The Sopranos. During the program, an FBI spokesman was interviewed to provide insight on the show from the perspective of real-life mobsters. Shockingly, the spokesman revealed that the FBI had wiretaps in both New York and Jersey, and from the very first season, real-life mobsters were discussing the show with each other over the phone. Both the New York and New Jersey factions were concerned about the show's accuracy, to the point where they suspected that informants within their own crews were providing information to the show's screenwriters. The level of accuracy was astonishing, from the way the characters talked and walked to their preferences in food and even their methods and motives for killing. The hostility between the New York and New Jersey crews depicted in the show was also spot on. Subscribe to my channel to watch the future Vano VHS videos, and if you prefer reading rather than watching, visit my website using the card you see on your screen. Watch the video on the right to learn how exactly did Sicario 2 end. My name is Ivan Piatouski and you're watching Vano VHS.